Hello, everybody. Welcome back for our weekly collective energy update for energetically sensitives and empaths. My name is Jona Bryndis, and I'm airing here live from transCODES from sunny Florida this time. I hope you guys are all well. And those of you who live in the colder regions like I do normally, hang in there. It's only going to be a couple months. Anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Let me know what countries you're watching from. It's always wonderful to see the internationality of this audience. And I hope we have a good audio and a good video. It takes a little bit till I get to see the actual live broadcast. All right, so we're going to have a few background noises here today because this is a more urban environment and I'm just glad to be able to be outside. So bear with me here, even if we have fire engines or trains going by. The last 2 weeks were, you know, I don't think they were particularly rough on people, but what could have been frustrating about it was the loopy nature, the repetitive nature, and I'm going to talk about this today. I'm also going to talk about the new levels of adaptability that are coming in right now. And yes, I can start seeing you guys. You know, please comment, please ask questions if you have any. As you know, I always come back to your questions afterwards. But since most of you apparently watch this recording in the edited version here on my YouTube channel, you can see, you cannot see the chat. So as we were going through, you know, these refinement processes, as I called them 2 weeks ago, and some of you may have watched the March update or March forecast, which is a new service that I'm doing. I'm actually now looking at the energies ahead of time for you. I do this anyway, but I usually just do this within the Sacred Self-Healing community here at transCODES. Personally, I was sick last week, and this was something that I shared with a lot of people, but I wasn't doing nothing. We were very, very busy here at transCODES, energy coaching people through the experience of some of these deeper etheric sensations that they had. So if you were part of this group who had a lot of heady stuff last week, you know, recurring sinus infection, guys, me too. I know this is the frustration that I mentioned earlier. You know, it feels like a repeat, and it is a little bit, but don't worry about it. It should get better this week. We're moving into a time where, you know, all these things that you've been training for, you know, staying centered in your heart and knowing how to get there, how this can really pay off for you. That's why we had this sort of split barometer last week, you know, where it was not clear, you know, how a person chooses what their reality is going to be. This week, it's a bit more clear, and we have a very positive barometer, I want to say, for the next week. Something that looks a lot better compared to the last couple of months, namely a little bit of ease. So the irritation and the crises and the emergencies that we went through here in these past weeks are now slowing down. And this is the cool thing. If you're still going through a crisis, a lot of people had relationship issues in these last 2 weeks, guys. So if you're still going through this, then remind yourself that there was a life after the release. And some of you may have watched Shoshana here on the show with me in December. She's a counselor, family counselor, and she talked about the opportunity for healing in release. So when there's blow-ups in relationships, and right now we're still in the time of blow-ups, so this weekend can still be a bit short-fused, okay, guys? So, you know, don't jump to conclusions. Don't, you know, buy into everything, especially the stories or how reality sort of displays itself. There's a lot of deception and not quite yet the level of clarity that we want. This is coming in with the next week, and this is something to look forward to, which is why I dared to put the barometer on to orange, which means, okay, guys, you passed the worst now. If you're still dealing with that head cold that is going around, just take some time for yourself, slow down, and sleep as much as you can. Some of you have experienced these really, really strange tiredness attacks in these last 2 weeks. And I want to explain this a little more since, this is all empaths here, okay? These last 2 weeks were a time of increased etheric stretching, increased etheric activity. Lots of you guys experienced a third eye opening and new stuff coming in. And this is not something that is all that positive at first, because what it does, it makes us feel like we're working out like crazy. So I don't know how many times I've actually said this week. Etheric work, energy work can be just as exhausting as physical work. So you've got to heed that, you've got to honor that, and understand that when your etheric body begins to expand, and that is part of this overall collective awakening that we're having, it comes in waves. Remember how I predicted this here for March, another wave of etheric activity. Then our physical kind of has to grow into this, and this takes a little bit. We have to work on increasing our light body. We have to work on being able to hold all that is coming in. And so what I mentioned earlier, where I said this is not all comfortable at first, is usually because we can't really see the larger context. We just see ourselves not functioning right. We see that we're limited somehow, and that we're not performing as well as we normally would. And so we focus on our flaws, we focus on what is not working. But if you understand that this is actually a really positive process, and I don't mean this in just like this woo type of your energy body is, well, but it is. It is. And so honor your energy body here as part of your holistic view of yourself, because this is one of these paradigm changes that we are going through right now, guys. We're going away from this black and white ego binary, it's either good or bad, it's either right or wrong, into a more holographic, into a wider type of understanding. And this may all still sound like esoteric talk, but it's actually a very physical process and a very technical process. So here at transCODES, the last 2 weeks, we were dealing with, working with our energies in a way that, and some of you may know this, we regard the energy work as almost like code work, as like reprogramming ourselves. We worked here on the deepest level of cell memory and template work, okay, that allows us to really inhabit and fill up this energetic and etheric expansion that is going on. Yes, and I'm reading some of your comments, guys. Yes, I'm so sorry about the sinus and the flu thing. Me too. I felt like total crap and I was so over it, and I thought I was done, and it came back. Yes. Yes, and you're healthier now, and this is getting better. Hey, Canada, South Africa, Trinidad, so cool to have you here. Thank you guys for tuning in. So there's a lot of stuff that was happening last week, and because it takes us, there's a lag between us being able to actually fully understand and getting into that clarity of what that actually means. And in that time, it just feels like, oh my God, this is never ending. Now, there is a little bit of a slowdown coming in now. So If I look at the energies for the next week, I'm seeing like a slower pace, like I predicted in the forecast for energy. So I would just recommend to go with this, and not look at this as a limitation, but look at this as a moment, to refine even more, to maybe eliminate some options, and allow all these new impulses that your system wasn't quite ready or quite able to process yet here in these last 2 weeks, to come forward and to form actual new ideas, and to turn that can turn into new inspirations. And those of you who have been in relationship issues, guys, this is the time, okay, where you have to really tune into your needs. What are my needs? What do I need to feel safe? What do I need to feel loved? And bring this into communication with your partner. There is no way, if you continue doing what you've been doing, that your relationship patterns are going to change. You have to become a disruptor, but not a disruptor in the sense of destructor, but in the sense of really gaining clarity over the things that you are not willing to live with, or that you really value, and go into this open communication with your partner and say, okay, let's just take an inventory here. Yes, things are not going that optimal, I agree, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to split up or get divorced or move away or move apart. This can mean that this is a wonderful opportunity for you guys to refine and renegotiate the terms and the rules of engagement with another. And so this process is actually happening in the entire collective right now. You can see this in the political arena as well. And the only thing that is really in the way of getting more clarity is our ego's tendency to accept normality, okay, to even the most dysfunctional or destructive behaviors as something that is normal and familiar, and therefore as something that you think you could settle for. But this time right now is kind of like a congruence check, guys, because if you are not really in tune, with what your needs are and how this actually affects your self-worth and your self-value, then you will feel very degraded actually by some of these things that are going on in your relationship, or in the collective altogether. And so that is the time where you need to go in and say, okay, I'm not a victim of all of this. There's a part of me that is involved. I have to own my own parts. There's parts of me that have enabled that, and even if it was just through accepting this as my normal, all right, and see yourself in that place where you can actually make a change. So this is something that I really want to encourage you for this coming week here, that you go into this inner communication with yourself, and don't get hooked onto stories, don't get hooked on your mind, onto like, well, we're doing this because we've always done this, and you're settling for something that is actually either violating or challenging your boundaries, and that is not allowing you to live according to your highest values and your needs. You will not get past that. So this is another reason, by the way, why this feels like a repeat now, because as some of you may know, there's also an equinox coming up here in next week, and that is linked to the equinox in by the end of September. And so many of you guys will actually feel like in a deja vu. I've had this like all week, this past week, that I would have dreams, I would have situations all day long that reminded me of the exact same thing 6 months ago. Okay, I was at the exact same place, and I was starting to doubt my perception, whether this is just a replay or whether this is the energies on the outside really giving me the opportunity to review and to do a congruence check. So many of you have been stuck in a loop that you were not aware of since the end of September, and that is coming to an end now. And I want to really, really, I can't really encourage you, but I can maybe empower you by letting you know that if you bring closure to these old cycles, to these destructive cycles, or things that are degrading or devaluing yourself, or your what you stand for, that this is the perfect time now. And then after that, we're going to move into this, sort of new, sort of spring energy. And you will feel this, maybe some of you already, that there's a sort of a new surge of energy coming in, but you need to have the right foundation for that. So that's why the closure is very important. And when I get to the tips here in a few minutes, I'm going to translate this into the different areas of your being, your entire total being, which is, not binary, but it is holistic. You consist of your physical, your emotional, your mental, your social, behavioral, your spiritual, and your etheric. Okay, and the etheric is the one that is coming in one more time here this week, really, really strong, allowing you to actually experience yourself in that holistic way. And the best way to handle this is sort of the first aid for coming week, is stop trying to figure out things, guys. Feel things out, okay? You are so much more. Your perception is so much more than just your 5 physical senses. You have everything that you need to tune into your inner guidance and to tune into becoming able to discern what is true to you. This is the week, guys, because after that, a new sort of train comes by and you want to jump on that. And if you have too much baggage, it's going to, force you to slow down in a bad way. So right now, by just sort of standing still, and going into this place of inner congruence check and outer inventory, including the communication with, your loved ones or your co-workers or your bosses, you can determine the way all this is going to go for you for the next 6 months of this year. One more thing, in regards to this change in paradigm, from this binary view of right and wrong to a more holistic version of that, a larger context version of that, is how this affects our kids. I've had a lot of sessions these last 2 weeks talking about kids and how our kids are different, and mostly, of course, because they've picked parents, that are already sort of moving into this awareness and higher consciousness levels. But I really want you to understand that if you have issues with your kids, by the way, if they were really on your nerves these last 2 weeks, that's part of this wave that came. So your kids cannot contextualize any of this. And the best help that you can give to your kids is actually just be there to talk about this, and don't just shoo things away, or say, oh, that was just a dream, or oh, no, take them seriously. Really go in there. The reason why so many kids are diagnosed with all these spectrum stuff and, ADD, ADHD syndromes and so forth is because psychiatry and psychology still operates on this binary system. They don't really have a way to classify these new ways of us humans adapting to this higher etheric activity. And so most of our kids, that are energetically sensitive, they will be regarded as neurodivergent, as they call this, in a sense, as not fitting into the mainstream profile. And this may, make you feel like, again, you're focusing on the flaws or on what is not working. But I want you to see this as an evolutionary progress. Your children are the 2.0 version of you, okay? And what they need the most is a grown-up, preferably a parent or caretaker, that can help them contextualize that. Okay, so be there and take them seriously. And even if you have to talk about the monster underneath the bed or in the closet, take it seriously, and empower your child to work with these things through its own energy, through, going into your heart, breathe into your heart, know that your heart space is the safest place for protection, and that you don't always have to react to things, that you don't have to always make things go away. Remember the 3 stages of self-healing, slash, accessing your higher abilities is to know how to clear, how to release things. Then a second, how to connect. All right, this is the feeling out part. And then how to integrate. This is the walking the talk part, like actually putting things into action. And sometimes, you have to do all things at the same time. Yes, it's good to see you guys too. And the way this will ideally play out for you, if you heed these energetic tips that I have for you, is that you will be able to come up with a new way of approaching maybe your relationship or your work or your business. There's a very strong energy that is coming in right now, a new inspiration. And before you can, or before you want to get to committing yourself to new things, all right, to actually get to that place of devotion. Remember in the 21 days we talked about how you move your energy from determination to devotion. If you have the time, this video series is of energy training lessons is phenomenal. This is everything in a nutshell. So in order to move your energy back into this devotion where you full-heartedly devote yourself to your cause or to your relationship, you need to go through this congruence check here this week, okay, and learn how to express that better. Also, you will feel a sort of an almost like feel invigorated, a new ambition. And for you now, the whole point is to find the balance between the two, okay? So between congruence and between the patience that also comes with that, to see when is it time to slow down and when is it time, to be very active. And to combine this feminine and masculine energy in you and to balance this out. This will be sort of the optimal thing for you that can come out of that. And for some of us, like myself, who are more, sort of on the go, 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 go sort of side of things, it will remind me of patience. It will remind me of, slowing down and taking a breath and connecting within and feeling out, how do I truly feel about this? What do I truly need? Okay, so here are the energy tips for next week, guys. On a physical level, since you're still dealing with the head and sinus stuff, make sure you stretch a lot, okay? So this week, will be the week of stretching because your etheric has already done that last week. And this is probably why you have so much pain in your neck and pain in your spine, especially lower back issues are very, high in the rise right now. Go stretch. It doesn't matter what the weather is, just do a lot of stretching for this week. It will help your physical and your etheric to match up. Okay. Also, make sure that you don't fall for all the nervous stuff that can come in here, like being sort of overpowered by all the bombardment that is coming in from the outside. Okay. Remember, what is your true normal? What is your true reality? And in order to feel this, you have to go into your heart. Most people are probably also going to be dealing with foot issues. So feet, take good care of your feet, maybe some foot baths, maybe, do some, lotions and stuff on that, because your feet are very challenged here when it comes to like building a new foundation. Okay. Emotionally, the biggest issue is probably being short-fused and perhaps maybe dealing with your own anger or dealing with your own frustration, irritability, like the frustration with yourself, with not being able to move forward in the way you thought you would. So here again, it comes that pace into play. And if you are plagued by having all these dreams and plans and you indecisive about how to move forward, then maybe look at some of your inner child and karmic aspects that are playing into this unconscious fear of punishment. This fear of making mistakes is really big right now, guys, and also the projection of guilt. So this whole sort of, like being afraid of taking responsibility, being afraid of making a decision, all right? Take this week off from making decisions. Allow it to slow down. Feel deep into you. Do inventory, journal, and go into this new clarity that wants to come in, and then make decisions next week. Okay, I don't say this very often. Mentally, it's that this short fuseness could lead to like jumping to conclusions and to like doing things before you thought this all the way through. Now, because I've mentioned that it's better if you feel things out instead of figuring out, I would also not really come up with big plans this week. So it's better to actually go into that this recapitulation of everything. Okay, so don't go too far with your sort of raw incoming inspiration. It takes another week to refine. Okay, and behaviorally, relationship wise, just be really, really open right now. I know you guys going through a tough time with your partners, or with maybe wanting to decide whether you split up or not, or you actually met somebody new and you're not sure if you should move to the next level. Take a time out from that and just stay open. Okay, feel things out. And spiritually, it's really the same thing, just on a more spiritual level. You don't have to take everything word by word. Read, learn, inspire yourself, maybe by listening to webinars, listening to or watching YouTube videos about cool subjects, such as the nature of consciousness and stuff like that, and really just dive into these deeper spiritual things, but without having to buy into them or externalize all your power to them. And energetically, for those of you who know what energetic code work is, and remember the stretching. So you want to continue stretching, working on expanding your etheric field, but watch projections. This is a big etheric trap that people go into. They think they have to like put this white bubble of light around them and project their light out. No. Yes, it's good for you to work with an expansion of your etheric, but not to project your light out. And if you don't know the difference, then please, ask questions here, or email me, or come to these energy training sessions that we have going on here every other day at transCODES. One thing that I want to explain for those of you who are interested in the energetic code work is that what we are moving into here is a form of syntropy, and I talked a lot about syntropy in the past. It is basically the convergence of all of all our energies into our center. It's a form of heart coherence, and when that happens, things begin to conspire to pull you into your future. Remember that? So when you feel in this acute struggle of not knowing what to do, not knowing what to decide, where to go, what business idea to start, then let that go and go into your heart instead. Go into this convergence instead, so that your future, the optimal or highest potential can pull you into where you need to go, so that you don't need to push anymore. Because the exhaustion and the tiredness, guys, comes from that push, from thinking we have to push into the future, which is a very common misunderstanding. All right, guys, I would like to close that way. I hope to see some of you here in half an hour for the crypto spiritual weekly reflecting on collective energies in regards to the financial markets and cryptocurrency. This is a very exciting subject. As you know, I have this experiment going where I'm trying to predict the cryptocurrency movements here through the collective energy observation. And if you would like to know more about that, you can also join the Crypto Spiritual Facebook group or join my Twitter, either here at transCODES or Crypto Spiritual. Thank you guys for being here. Good to be back. See you next week, same time. Thank you. Bye-bye.